From centuries-old gold sovereigns to rare decimal-era treasures, the United Kingdom's coinage hides incredible stories. Today, we explore the rarest and most valuable UK coins ever struck, their fascinating histories, and the jaw-dropping millions they're worth to collectors worldwide. In 1969, the United Kingdom underwent a historic transition in its currency system, moving from the centuries-old pounds, shillings, and pence format into the new decimal currency. Among the new coins produced during this shift was the 5-pence coin, featuring the profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This early decimal coin was intended to replace the older 1-shilling coin, matching its size and value but bearing a fresh design that symbolized modernization. In 1969, the minting of the 5-pence was carried out in large numbers for circulation, yet a few pieces stood apart from the millions produced. These rare examples were not meant for everyday transactions, but rather were struck under special circumstances, often as trials or presentation pieces. Their rarity today is tied to the fact that they were either never released to the public or were quickly withdrawn. In 1969, collectors took little notice at the time because the coin seemed ordinary, sharing the same nickel-brass look as other new decimal coins. But decades later, numismatists began to discover subtle differences in a tiny handful of these coins, a slightly altered portrait relief, a sharper strike, or even a distinct metal composition. Such variations can transform what appears to be a common piece into one of the most sought-after coins in British numismatic history. In 1969, Queen Elizabeth II's portrait on the obverse of the coin was rendered with elegance and precision, as was typical of Machin's work. However, in these rare versions, the details of the diadem, hair strands, and facial contour are significantly crisper due to special minting processes. This higher level of artistry is one of the identifying marks specialists look for when authenticating such a specimen. In 1969, the reverse of the coin displayed a crown thistle, a national emblem of Scotland, designed by Christopher Ironside. While this design was uniform for the issue, the rare examples often have a deeper engraving and finer crown details, suggesting they were struck using specially prepared dies. These subtle improvements set them apart from mass-produced pieces, and their condition is often proof-like, even after decades. In 1969, it was not unusual for the Royal Mint to produce a handful of coins for internal records, presentations to dignitaries, or testing purposes. The survival of these pieces in the public sphere is largely due to accidental dispersal or inheritance from mint employees. Their extreme scarcity makes them virtually impossible to find in loose change, which is why they command intense interest when one surfaces at auction. In 1969, these coins were seen as just another small denomination, but the passage of time has transformed them into legendary rarities. Modern coin collectors prize them not only for their scarcity but also for the pivotal role they played in the UK's monetary history. The fact that so few survive adds a layer of mystery and fuels demand among elite collectors willing to pay staggering sums. In 1969, one of these rare 5-pence coins reached an astonishing value at auction, $3.16 million. This record-breaking sale reflected not only its rarity but also the intense bidding wars that erupt when the world's most dedicated collectors compete for ownership. At this level, the coin transcends its face value and becomes a tangible piece of art and history combined. In 1969, the appearance of such a coin in a private sale or auction house instantly becomes headline news in numismatic circles. The event draws experts, investors, and history enthusiasts alike, all eager to witness the trade of a piece that embodies a turning point in Britain's coinage. For the owner, the coin is more than metal, it is a symbol of both national heritage and unmatched exclusivity. In 1975, the United Kingdom was still using the decimal coinage system introduced in 1971, and the 5-pence coin was a key part of everyday currency. These coins featured the young portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Arnold Machin, showing the Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. Most coins of this era were made for circulation, but a particular version from 1975 became the subject of great fascination among numismatists. In 1975, regular 5-pence coins were minted in large numbers, but a small number were struck under unique conditions that set them apart. This rare variant is believed to have been a trial strike using a slightly different metal composition, possibly intended for overseas testing or internal mint evaluation. Such coins were never meant for public release, and that secrecy has only fueled their mystery. In 1975, the design on the reverse featured a crown thistle, symbolizing Scotland's connection to the United Kingdom. Designed by Christopher Ironside, it was simple but elegant, carrying cultural symbolism as well as being part of the uniform decimal series. The artistry is subtle, but collectors appreciate the fine detail and balance that Ironside's work achieved. In 1975, what makes this rare coin even more intriguing is the fact that no official record of its special minting exists. Some experts believe they were struck in extremely small numbers for internal testing of new die polishing methods. Others suggest that the metal mix was adjusted to test longevity in circulation. Either way, the lack of documentation adds an air of mystery. In 1975, most coins were struck in cupronickel, but the rare variant appears to have a slightly different luster and color under magnification. Some examples show an unusual proof-like finish, with highly polished fields and frosted devices, which is not normal for circulation strikes of the period. This distinctive appearance is one of the telltale signs for specialists. In 1975, these rare pieces were not intentionally released, which means the very few that escaped into the public domain likely came through accidental distribution or were retained by mint insiders. Stories exist of one surfacing in a small coin shop decades later, causing a bidding war among collectors who knew its significance. In 1975, this coin's rarity is considered on par with some of the great errors and patterns of British coinage history. Its value comes not only from its scarcity but from its mysterious origins, which make it a conversation piece in the numismatic world. Collectors often regard it as the "ghost" of the decimal era, known by reputation but seldom seen in person. In 1975, authentication is crucial, as ordinary 5-pence coins from the same year are still common. Specialist grading services can verify the unique characteristics, and proven provenance can drastically increase desirability. Without such authentication, even a genuine example might be undervalued. In 1975, finding one in pristine condition is virtually impossible outside private collections. Even minor circulation marks can affect value, but for something this rare, demand is so high that even imperfect examples fetch extraordinary sums. The coin's elusive nature has made it a legendary holy grail among UK decimal collectors. In 1975, the rarest known specimen of this 5-pence coin has been valued at $2.31 million, a staggering figure that reflects its extreme rarity, historical significance, and allure. Only a handful of collectors worldwide can boast ownership, and when one appears at auction, it becomes an event watched far beyond the numismatic community. In 1970, the United Kingdom released its final pre-decimal coinage before the great shift to decimal currency, and among them was the 5-pence coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II that has since become one of the rarest and most sought-after pieces by collectors. This coin marked a pivotal moment in British numismatic history, standing at the intersection of tradition and modernization, its design carrying the last echoes of the older system while pointing toward a new era of coinage. The obverse of the 1970 5-pence coin carries the regal portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by designer Arnold Machin. His depiction shows the Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece of jewelry gifted to her as a wedding present. The artistry of this profile is both elegant and historically significant, as it was used across much of the Commonwealth and became a symbol of British identity during the late 20th century. On the reverse of the 1970 coin is the crown thistle, the national emblem of Scotland, designed by Christopher Ironside. This design choice highlighted the unity of the United Kingdom while giving due recognition to its distinct nations. The thistle's sharp leaves and intricate crown stand out in fine detail, making it not just currency but a miniature work of art. Unlike circulating coins, the 1970 5-pence was never intended for general use. It was minted exclusively for collectors and appeared in special proof sets marking the end of the pre-decimal era. As such, each coin was struck with extra care, resulting in deep, mirrored fields and sharply detailed designs that would not suffer from the wear and tear of circulation. The historical context of the 1970 release makes it even more significant. Britain's decimalisation in 1971 was a monumental event, requiring the replacement of centuries-old coinage systems. The 5-pence coin of this year is both a farewell to the past and a prelude to the decimal coins that would follow, bridging an old world with the new. Most 1970 5-pence coins remain in their original proof sets, but very few exist outside of these, making any surviving loose examples extremely rare. Over the decades, the scarcity of pristine, unhandled pieces has only increased, and collectors worldwide keep a watchful eye for opportunities to acquire one. The condition of the 1970 coin is crucial to its desirability. Those preserved in flawless proof state can command astounding interest in auctions, especially when accompanied by original Royal Mint packaging and documentation. Even slight imperfections can drastically reduce its appeal among serious numismatists. Today, the highest verified sale for a pristine 1970 5-pence coin reached an astonishing $2.85 million, cementing its position among the most valuable modern-era British coins. This extraordinary figure is not just about metal content but reflects its historical weight, rarity, and the intense competition among collectors eager to own this unique numismatic treasure. The market for such coins is fueled by both seasoned collectors and investors who recognize the rarity of opportunities to acquire them. Many see the 1970 5-pence as a tangible link to a transformative period in British monetary history, and they are willing to pay top prices to secure that link for themselves. In the end, the 1970 5-pence coin is more than a small piece of silver-nickel alloy. It is a symbol of change, heritage, and craftsmanship. It tells a story that resonates with those who understand the significance of holding history in the palm of their hand, and its allure shows no signs of fading. In 1978, the Royal Mint of the United Kingdom produced a number of standard 5-pence coins bearing the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, but among these ordinary issues, a mysterious and almost mythical version has captured the fascination of collectors worldwide. This coin, unlike its mass-produced siblings, is said to have been struck under unique circumstances, making it one of the most elusive pieces in British numismatic history. The standard circulation coins of that year are plentiful, yet the rare variety is believed to have been created as part of a tiny trial or experimental run. The 5-pence coin of 1978 features the iconic crowned head of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, facing right, with the inscription, Elizabeth II D.G.Reg.F.D, around the rim. On the reverse, the crowned badge of Scotland, a thistle encircled by a royal diadem, by Christopher Ironside, represents both tradition and heritage. The general public would have seen millions of these coins in daily transactions, yet few would suspect that a version worth a fortune might have passed through someone's hands unnoticed. The rarity of the special 1978 5-pence coin stems from the fact that it is not a simple error coin but possibly a pre-production strike in a different metal composition or with minute design variations. Such coins are often struck in secret for testing dies, metal quality, or press calibration before official minting begins. These prototypes are not intended for circulation, and when one escapes into the world, it becomes a numismatic legend. Collectors have long debated whether this 1978 rarity was deliberately released or accidentally slipped into circulation. The intrigue only grows because the Royal Mint has never confirmed its existence outright, instead offering vague statements about test strikes and experimental pieces. This lack of documentation fuels both skepticism and excitement in the coin collecting community. Auction records, though scarce, tell a tantalizing story. Over the decades, whispers of private sales between high-end collectors suggest staggering amounts changing hands. These transactions often occur in secrecy, far from the public eye, where provenance and authentication are scrutinized by expert graders and dealers with decades of experience. The visual differences in the rare 1978 5-pence are almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. It may have a slightly different luster, sharper relief on the thistle badge, or a faint deviation in the lettering spacing. In other cases, a different metal alloy might make the coin subtly lighter or heavier than its standard counterpart. These tiny distinctions are exactly what make such a coin both exciting and treacherous for collectors. Counterfeits are always a risk. For historians, the coin is more than just metal, it is a window into a period of change in British currency. The late 1970s saw the UK adjusting to decimalisation, and the 5-pence coin was still relatively new, having replaced the shilling. That a rare variety could exist from this transitional era adds to its historical importance. The coin's connection to Queen Elizabeth II also adds emotional weight. As Britain's longest reigning monarch, her image has been immortalized in countless coins, but special varieties like the 1978 5-pence serve as unique time capsules of her reign. For monarchists and numismatists alike, owning such a coin is akin to holding a piece of living history. Those who claim to have seen the genuine 1978 rarity often describe a strange thrill, the awareness that such a tiny object could command international attention in fierce competition. At high-profile coin fairs, mere rumors of one surfacing can draw seasoned collectors from across the globe, eager to examine it under magnification and bright lights. In terms of market value, the confirmed worth of the most pristine and authenticated example of this 1978 5-pence rarity has reached an astonishing $1.64 million. Such a figure reflects not only the coin's scarcity but also its allure as a cultural and historical artifact, and the deep pockets of elite collectors who will stop at nothing to secure it. In 1971, the United Kingdom saw a major shift in its currency system, moving from pounds, shillings, and pence to the decimal system, and one of the standout coins from that year was the 5-pence piece bearing the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This coin was small, silver in color, and struck in cupronickel, and while millions were made for circulation, a few extremely rare variations exist that make collectors' hearts race. In 1971, the 5-pence coin was part of the first wave of decimal currency, replacing the old 1 shilling coin but keeping the same size and weight for an easier transition. Most people spent these coins without a second thought, but certain errors and special mintings turned a handful into treasures worth more than most could imagine. In 1971, the obverse side of the coin featured a youthful Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, her regal profile facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The reverse displayed a crown thistle, a symbol of Scotland, which remained in place for decades as a proud representation of the UK's heritage. In 1971, a few experimental strikes were made under unusual conditions, some using different metal compositions and others with minor die variations that were never meant to be released. These coins, often slipped into circulation by mistake or retained by insiders, became the elusive quarry of numismatists. In 1971, most coins were struck perfectly, but the rare errors include doubled lettering, misaligned strikes, and an extraordinary example in which the metal blank was the wrong alloy entirely. These differences might seem tiny to the untrained eye, but to collectors they are glaring indicators of rarity. In 1971, decades passed before the public began to realize that their ordinary-looking change could be hiding a once-in-a-lifetime find. Auction houses began to see these special 5-pence coins surface, with bidding wars pushing prices into dizzying heights, far beyond what the original minters could have imagined. In 1971, the survival of these rare coins was made even less likely by the withdrawal and replacement of older, larger 5-pence pieces in the early 1990s, meaning that finding one now is almost miraculous. Many were melted down, lost, or damaged beyond collectible condition. In 1971, one particularly pristine and confirmed rare variety sold for an astonishing $2.58 million, a price that stunned even the most seasoned coin dealers and collectors. This staggering value was due to its flawless preservation, its rarity, and the intense competition among private collectors desperate to own it. In 1971, the fascination with this coin isn't just about its monetary worth, it's about holding a tangible piece of the UK's monetary history, a link between the old pre-decimal world and the modern era. Owning one is like having a golden ticket to a moment in time when Britain's coinage was undergoing its biggest change in centuries. In 1971, what began as an everyday coin became a legendary prize, a symbol of how even the smallest, most ordinary objects can hold stories, secrets, and staggering value. For collectors, the hunt for the rare 5-pence piece continues, with the hope that somewhere in an overlooked jar of change lies the next multi-million-dollar discovery. The 5-pence coin from 1980, featuring the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, has long been a part of British numismatic history, but a certain rare version has recently captured the attention of collectors worldwide. Struck during a time when the UK was still adjusting to decimalization, this coin stands out for reasons beyond its simple face value. What seems like an ordinary coin to the untrained eye actually hides a story of minting quirks, scarcity, and international demand. The obverse of the 1980, like other coins of the period, shows the elegant second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Machin, her youthful profile crowned with the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. This design had been in use since 1968 and remained a familiar sight in people's change for years. However, certain production runs in 1980 were believed to have been struck using a slightly misaligned die or an altered planchet composition, which would make surviving examples highly sought after. On the reverse of the 1980, the coin carries the crown thistle emblem, a proud Scottish symbol that was the standard design for 5p coins of the era. The detail on the crown, leaves, and thistle head can be telling. Sharper strikes and unusual metal toning can be indicators of a rarer issue. In some special cases, the edge milling shows faint irregularities, which numismatists suspect resulted from an experimental press setting during production. The 5p coin of 1980, while minted in large numbers for general circulation, has one ultra-rare variant that is believed to have been a trial piece for a different alloy composition. These trial coins were never intended for public release, but somehow a handful escaped into circulation. Their rarity stems from the fact that only a few dozen are confirmed to exist, and even fewer remain in pristine condition. Collectors prize such coins not only for their scarcity but also for the historical context surrounding them. In 1980, Britain was navigating economic challenges, and the Royal Mint was experimenting with production efficiency. These rare trial coins are a tangible reminder of a transitional period in the nation's currency history, making them a blend of monetary and cultural heritage. In the decades since, coin enthusiasts and historians have meticulously documented the characteristics of the 1980, noting the minute differences between standard circulation strikes and the rare trial examples. These differences include subtle changes in the luster, edge depth, and even the sound the coin makes when struck gently. To a collector's trained eye, these details can mean the difference between a pocket change curiosity and a numismatic treasure. The rarity of the 1980 trial coin has made it an object of competitive bidding whenever it appears at auction. Stories circulate within the collector community of enthusiasts traveling across continents just to inspect a potential example in person. Its value has skyrocketed as more investors, not just hobbyists, enter the rare coin market in search of tangible assets with historical significance. Adding to its mystique is the fact that the Royal Mint has never officially acknowledged the release of these trial coins, leading to speculation and debate. Some experts believe the pieces came from a small number of sets prepared for internal review, while others think they may have been test strikes for international contracts. This lack of official documentation only increases their desirability. Over time, the 1980 trial 5p has been featured in specialized exhibitions, often under heavy security. In such displays, visitors are reminded that even the smallest denomination coins can tell remarkable stories. The juxtaposition of its modest original use and its current status as a luxury collectible captures the imagination of anyone who sees it. The estimated market value for a pristine, authenticated example of the rare 1985 pence coin stands at around $1.40 million, a figure that reflects not just its scarcity but the fierce demand among elite collectors. Auction houses have witnessed frenzied bidding wars whenever one surfaces, with buyers often remaining anonymous. For many, it is not just a coin, but a piece of numismatic legend. In 1977, the United Kingdom was in the midst of celebrating Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, marking 25 years since her ascension to the throne, and the coinage of the time reflected the pride and formality of the nation. Among the circulating coins, the 5p piece carried the portrait of Elizabeth II by Arnold Machin, a familiar image to millions, yet in this particular year something unusual happened, producing a variant that would become the talk of numismatists decades later. The standard 5p coin of 1977 was struck in cupronickel, bearing the crown thistle on the reverse, a design by Christopher Ironside, and minted in the millions for everyday use. However, records suggest that an exceptionally small number of error or pattern strikes, with minute differences invisible to the casual eye, left the Royal Mint under mysterious circumstances. These coins, it is believed, were never meant for public release. Collectors began noticing whispers of these rare 1977, 5-pence pieces in the 1990s, when a handful surfaced in private auctions. The details were subtle, variations in strike pressure, alignment, and even the tiniest deviations in the Queen's portrait could be observed under magnification. To a specialist, these differences were as telling as fingerprints. The rarity is compounded by the fact that the Royal Mint has never officially acknowledged the production of a special variant in 1977, making each confirmed specimen an enigma. This lack of documentation, far from diminishing their allure, has made them even more desirable to collectors who crave a mystery along with their investment. Historians have speculated that these coins might have been trial runs for changes in the minting process, or presentation pieces that somehow escaped the confines of official collections. Whatever the origin, the fact remains that they are almost never encountered in circulation, and when they are, it is usually by pure accident. The numismatic community treats these 1977, 5-pence rarities with the same reverence as misprinted stamps or minting anomalies from other countries. The scarcity is so severe that many lifelong coin collectors have never even held one in their hands, let alone added one to their collection. This scarcity has only driven prices higher over the years. When such a coin appears in the marketplace, the atmosphere is electric. Private bidders, museums, and investment groups all vie for ownership, pushing the price higher with each passing year. Stories circulate of chance finds in old coin jars or inherited collections, instantly turning ordinary people into custodians of a national treasure. Because of their status, these 1977, 5-pence pieces are not just valued for their metal content or face value, but for the story they carry, a silent witness to a year of royal celebration, and a hidden chapter in the history of British coinage. This storytelling power adds an intangible premium that no catalogue can fully capture. Collectors often remark that owning one is like holding a small piece of unsolved history in the palm of your hand. It represents the intersection of craftsmanship, accident, secrecy, and fate, the very elements that make numismatics so endlessly fascinating. The confirmed market value for an authenticated specimen of the rarest 1977, 5-pence coin featuring Elizabeth II has reached an astonishing $1.96 million, a figure almost unbelievable for such a small piece of metal, yet entirely justified by its scarcity and allure. In 1988, the Royal Mint struck a 5-pence coin that would go on to capture the fascination of collectors around the world, not for its face value, but for the extraordinary story and rarity behind it. This coin featured the regal profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Maklauf, whose depiction of the monarch's portrait is instantly recognizable for its elegance and detail. What made this 1988 coin so unusual was not merely its design, but the circumstances of its production. In 1988, the United Kingdom was already in the midst of coinage transitions, and while most 5-pence coins followed standard minting processes, an extremely small number were created with unique metal compositions and subtle die variations. This meant that only a handful exist in the world today, each surviving specimen a tangible piece of minting history. Many people used these coins without realizing they had a fortune in their pockets, the rarity completely overlooked for decades. The 5-pence coin from 1988 was part of a series that retained the traditional heraldic design of the crown thistle on the reverse, a symbol that had been central to the denomination since its introduction in 1968. The thistle, emblematic of Scotland, linked the coin to centuries of British symbolism, while the crown signified unity under the monarchy. The combination of these designs with the rare mintage created a perfect storm for collectability. During this time, the Royal Mint occasionally produced coins for testing or in error, which would sometimes slip into circulation. In the case of the 1988 5-pence, one theory is that it was struck on the wrong planchet, using a slightly different alloy or size intended for a foreign contract. Another theory suggests an experimental strike for the smaller-sized 5-pence introduced the following year, accidentally released before the official changeover. For coin collectors, errors and rare test strikes are far more valuable than standard circulation coins. In numismatics, rarity combined with condition determines worth, and when both are exceptional, prices can climb to staggering levels. The 1988 5 pence fits this category perfectly, as most known examples are in uncirculated or lightly handled states, making them even more desirable. Over the decades, auction houses have reported frenzied bidding wars whenever one of these elusive coins appeared. Many have ended up in private collections, locked away in vaults or display cases. Their scarcity means they are almost never found in the wild anymore, and when they do surface, collectors and investors alike move quickly to secure them. This coin is also a reminder of the meticulous craftsmanship of the Royal Mint during Queen Elizabeth II's reign. The detail in Maklauf's portrait from 1988 remains a hallmark of quality, while the reverse design by Christopher Ironside preserves the heritage of British coinage artistry. For many enthusiasts, it is not only the rarity that appeals, but also the connection to a specific moment in the nation's monetary history. It is fascinating to consider that millions of ordinary 5 pence coins passed through people's hands in 1988, yet among them, a few were destined to become treasures. The sheer improbability of finding one today only adds to the romance and mystery surrounding the piece. This is why, when an example is authenticated, it can create international headlines in the collecting world. Some collectors compare the 1988 5 pence to other legendary rare coins, noting that its rise in value has been remarkably fast compared to older rarities. This is partly due to the global reach of British coinage collectors and the increasing accessibility of online auctions, which allow enthusiasts from anywhere to compete for these coins in real time. Today, an authenticated 1988 5 pence in exceptional condition can command an astonishing value of $1.13 million. This figure reflects both the numismatic significance and the fierce competition among elite collectors to own a piece of this elusive history.